Again, this is the original West Tech Fallout 76 Collector Edition bag in all its weird nylon glory. And when I first got this thing, I did the unboxing when I was super early on in my Twitch streaming career. And I remember like getting this bag and going like, I thought this was supposed to be like canvas, or wasn't this supposed to be like better material? But I kind of dismissed it. And then the whole canvas gate happened and all that. But today during stream, the official Fallout 76 West Tech canvas bag came in today. Look at that. And it still has that weird kind of, I don't even know what the smell is. It just smells weird. I don't know if anybody else got one of these things. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Mine smells funny. I don't get it. Maybe it's just me, but it's still here though. And inside, if you can, there is the Fallout 76 helmet, but it finally came in, and I am going to QuakeCon in 36, 35 days, depending on when you watch this thing. I might bring this. I don't know. I don't know what I would do with it, but there's just that part of me thinks I'm going to a Bethesda convention. Maybe bring it. I don't know. So, and with that, what is up, you beautiful bastards? I'm Chris from Circle of Geekdom, and I finished Bloodstained like 5 minutes ago. So yesterday during my video, which first off, thank you very, very much for anybody who's watched. That was by far my most successful video so far. I've only recorded, I think, maybe 10, 11 videos so far. And like, I am personally a very big believer in little victories. And this one hitting over 200, I think now it's over 300 watches. It really does mean the world to me. If you watched it for 5 seconds or you watched the whole spiel, thank you so very much. This really does mean the world to me. I'm having a lot of fun doing these videos. If you have ideas, comments, suggestions, know of somebody who can do a really good intro video for this thing, please let me know, because I really want to try and make a legit go of this thing. But with that, I did say that if I had any sort of additional thoughts, or if I was going to change my score, that I would do another video just talking about that. And I do have a few extra thoughts, and I do have a change in my score for the game. So again, if you didn't see my last video, which was almost entirely Bloodstained, no Fallout references in that one, I gave the game a 9 out of 10. It is a lot, saying it was a lot of fun. The combat is super crunchy. It feels like how a Castlevania game, Symphony of the Night specifically, should feel like. The graphics, it's a gorgeous game, but it does have some technical glitches. Minimal. The game did crash on me once, and there's this weird glitch where loot bags will kind of just like clip into walls and you can't collect them. It's a bit frustrating, and it happens quite a bit. But despite that stuff, and the soundtrack being fine at best, overall I've kind of found all this to be pretty nitpicky. But after now beating the game, and getting the proper good ending, with 99% of the map complete, I do want to change my score on this a little bit. So a couple things I did not mention from yesterday's video. The game does do a few things differently that I appreciate that Symphony did not do, which again, this is meant to be kind of a spiritual successor, so you're supposed to add on more stuff. In this case, there are mini games, or really, that's not the right word for it, side missions in the game. So because monsters took over this small little town, there's a few survivors, and they have chores for you to do. So there is there's a farmer, not really a side quest, but they do, if you bring him seeds, he will cultivate them, and then you get some veggies out of that. There's a woman who wants to honor the dead by bringing mementos of them, so you have to go look for a specific item, and then you get a prize for doing so. There's a woman who wants vengeance against the people who died in the attacks, so you have to kill a certain number of monsters, and then you get stuff for that. And then there's another woman who is just basically, she's hungry, so you have to feed her specific foods. And again, you get prizes as you turn that stuff in. And there's a weird one, too, of this guy who basically just kind of gets stuck in random places throughout the castle, and you basically have to give him a stone that'll teleport him back to the main, like, hub zone. But he keeps getting lost, and it's meant to be kind of a funny side quest thing. I will admit I did not finish all of those. Mostly the prizes that I was getting at that point were not worth it. Um, like I was just collecting enough good stuff as it was, and I think the only thing that was genuinely useful was a prize of like 4 pizzas, which is the other. This one would really be more of a mini game, I guess, would be crafting. Um, so as you start getting extra stuff, like weapons you're not using, or you start getting those body parts of monsters, you can turn into one of the characters and trade those things in for a better weapon. And then you can, if you accidentally mess up and sell that weapon, you can go back to the shop if it's already been crafted and rebuy it for a premium price. But it's something extra they did there. There's also food crafting too, so you can collect ingredients, make dishes, and which I think this is a really smart move, and I want to give them a lot of credit for coming up with this idea. The first time you create a dish, you get a stat boost. So not a lot of games do that. Like personally for me, like I never ever do crafting. Final Fantasy 14, I do a little bit because it's Final Fantasy 14, and yeah, look at all that stuff. Um, but this is the first time where there's a better point to doing it other than just it's another way of getting health. You yeah, you'll either get increases in strength, your luck, intelligent, constitution, all those stats. There's a different stat depending on which meal you get. I like that. I thought that was a really really smart idea. Um, and there's also exclusive weapons in the crafting section too. If you collect enough of like 3 of the swords you find throughout the map, or create yourself, you can then combine those 3 swords to make one super big sword. And that's what I did. And that's the sword I used to beat the game with. So yeah, I liked the crafting portion of that. I thought was kind of interesting. And it ultimately did give me the sword that helped me beat the game. The food idea I think was kind of neat. The side mission stuff I think is a good idea because it does give you reasons to go back to certain parts of the castle again. But again, for me, the prizes for doing so weren't big enough. Maybe if I went all the way through, there would have been a really, really big one. But I'll never know. Um, they did have one little portion of the game that, if you watch me on stream, I got frustrated with. But in hindsight now, I can appreciate, which is there's a bookcase that you can go to, and it looks super pixelated. You go through it, and boom, you're in a pixelated level of Bloodstained, Circle of the Moon, whatever the 8-bit 2D prequel was. You get to do basically, I'm assuming is the last level of that game. It is hard as shit. That boss is super cheap, and I died a bunch of times, but I did kill him. And it was neat. It's a neat little add-on piece for it. And I do know there is DLC out there too. I think they gave this to Kickstart starter backers of a sword whip and the chance to actually fight the game's director, who's the same guy who made Symphony of the Night. Oh, look, I pointed at the right statue this time. Look at me, getting better. Again, I think that's neat. I'm not going to spend the extra $10 for it. And to their credit, even on their Steam page, it even says like, we're not going to make this a regular thing, but it's not fair to give out free DLC when our Kickstarter backers paid money for this. So here you go. Like, I'm totally on board with that. I appreciate the transparency. So yeah, again, the exercise stuff on there too, I can appreciate. It wasn't necessarily for me. I'm not a completionist by nature, so I'm not going to go back to go through all that stuff. But now that I've beaten the game now too, there's a few things on there that are starting to irk me a bit more. So the technical glitches were still happening throughout the entire game. The loot bags getting clipped into walls happened really, really frequently, and it got really frustrating to see that. There was a portion of the game, I'm trying to say, like, really, it was just the ending that really upset me too, because you're fighting the final big bad boss of the game, and there's a sound effect that basically got stuck, and then throughout the entire end sequence, I'm hearing like this kind of grating, like noise in the background, and it's super frustrating to hear that. Again, if you watch my Twitch stream of me finishing it, the last few minutes of it, like I even like take off one of my headphones for a second because it's just that aggravating. Again, like if it was just like that one instance and the rest was fine, okay, I wouldn't ding it, but it's just too many technical glitches to the point where it's not worth calling out yet again. Um, the other thing that honestly was a little bit, I don't want to use the term frustrating for it, but it is just sort of disappointing at the same time. Um, it kind of was the ending because I do get this is a spiritual successor for Castlevania, but yeah, it's a very much a carbon copy of the previous Symphony of the Night, and yeah, I'll make sure I need to remind myself to put spoilers on this one a little bit. But it's a carbon copy, almost direct cutscene remake of the Symphony of the Night one. Um, that's a little frustrating because I think in Symphony of the Night it was I think a little bit more warranted because I actually was a little bit more interested in the characters, and in this game, not really. These are characters I don't like. They don't have that kind of history that like Alucard and Richter and I think her name was Marie did, or Dracula. Like this is all new villains, all new characters, but you can see a lot of the same beats for it throughout the whole game. I think that's even like my overarching frustration with the game is yes, let's have a spiritual successor to Castlevania, but it is almost in many respects a very much a carbon copy with a few tweaks and more like a redux. I think redux might even be a better word for this game. Like it's a different interpretation of Symphony of the Night versus a spiritual sequel or spiritual successor. It's a redux. It's a remake almost. Just if they just didn't have the Castlevania franchise for it too. But they do make a lot of Symphony of the Night references. And even when you play through the game, if you see some of the monsters in the game, you can replace them very easily with a Castlevania version of it. So in Castlevania, there were Medusa heads. In Bloodstained, there is like I can't even describe what they look like. I have no idea what those things were. But it was a floating thing that when they make contact with you, you turn to stone. Okay, it's the same thing. You still run into again a lot of the same basic premises of the creatures. You don't run into skeletons, but you run into like weird like mudmen thing. Like ninjas are in this game too, which is a little weird. Yeah, it just again some of the enemies are so carbon copied. There's just times where I just like, I mean, I get it because it is a Metroidvania style game, and you do need to repeat sprites, you need to repeat same basic functions for it, but again, because this game is so tied to Symphony, again, I mentioned this in yesterday's video, you can't help but compare the two every single time. And so because of that, right, wrong, or indifferent, it does almost make you yearn to play Symphony instead at a few points. So yeah, that part's a little bit disappointing. Like I said, the ending of the game, combine that with the technical glitches, was frustrating. The again, a lot of beat for beat stuff for it too, which again, if I think for me this may be again this is gonna be personal bias for it too. I had just finished playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night on Xbox just a couple of weeks ago when I got that statue over there. I was in a Castlevania mood. I went back to my Xbox One, turned it on, and played through the game again. So I still kind of had that game fresh in my mind, completely forgetting Bloodstained was coming out at that point. So yeah, something to kind of consider. So take my review and feedback with that kind of grain of salt, knowing that I'm somebody who A is a diehard Symphony fan, and B is really comparing this game a lot to it. Because again, for me, I can't help it. So overall, like yesterday, I gave it a 9. Now that I've actually done with the game, beaten it, I would probably lower this one down to about an. If my gut is telling me an 8 overall, so a little notch down. Because there's one final thing I didn't mention yet. Because again, I don't write scripts for these. I really need to start to just kind of keep my thoughts more organized. There's a couple parts in the game where you just kind of don't know what to do next. Like at least with Symphony, you knew as you're kind of running around the map, like, okay, I can't go here yet because I can't fly, or the game kind of hints that like, oh, mist could pass through. Like the game gave you a lot more intelligent clues about where to go for stuff, and this one doesn't do nearly as good a job. There's been more than a few occasions where I was just kind of lost about where to go, and at least 2 to 3 different occasions where I actually had to look up online for somebody who'd already beaten the game to see what to do next. Specifically a point where there's going to be some spikebreaker armor. it's not an intuitive way of figuring it out. There's not like a, oh, if you pay attention, this is you know where to go. It like I would never in a million years have found this place unless I looked up online. I probably never beaten the game if I didn't see this one YouTube clip of somebody telling me where to go get find an item of like spikebreaker armor level kind of things. And the same thing when like there's a point of like the differentiates between getting the bad ending and the good ending. I did the thing that would trigger the events to start the events to get me to the good ending, but I had no idea where to go, and I was just just kind of roaming around stuck. And again, I had to find somebody on YouTube who could just say like, okay, no, here's where to go. It's not super obvious. It's not in a centralized key location where to go. It's just kind of like you have to be paying really close attention and just kind of almost finding it by sheer dumb luck from the initial feel of it. And again, that's frustrating again too. So it's by no means perfect. Again, where I consider perfection to be Symphony of the Night, this one has enough to ding it. Where if I was being really honest, I should give this game a 7. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. Just for those things. Again, technical glitches. The soundtrack to me again is just not as memorable for a game of this kind of a caliber for it. And again, there's parts of the game that are just I was just completely lost and just did not know what to do next. So yeah, let's just go with a 7. It's a safer bet. I can live comfortably saying it's a 7. I still wholeheartedly recommend playing it. Is it worth the $40 right away? It kind of depends. On a couple things. One, it took me 14 hours to beat the whole game, with 99% of the map complete, not doing all the side quests, but getting the good ending. And looked up on YouTube. Apparently, there are only 2 endings: either the good ending or the bad ending. I got the good one, so I can say I'm done with it. For me personally, again, because I'm a fan of the series, and the good still definitely outweighs the bad, I got it on Steam for like $35. Green Man Gaming has it right now for $31. I would say get the Green Man for $30. Yes, if 14 hours well spent, that's like $2 an hour plus change. Absolutely worth that. I think it was overall still a very good game. Very much recommend it. It is not perfect, but yeah, I think still definitely worth your time. Definitely worth your money. Is it my game of the year? No. It's close. I think it's actually gonna be pretty close. But again, I'm still reserving that spot for Shadowbringers. I'm just assuming it's just gonna be exceptional. But yeah, not my game of the year. It is definitely like if I were to do a top 5 games of the year right now, it's definitely gonna be on that list. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna take the top spot for me this year. But yeah, those are my complete thoughts now on Bloodstained. 14 hours of the game, lots of good stuff. Definitely some areas of opportunity for it. I do not see myself doing the boss rush mode. I definitely don't do speed runs. That's not my cup of tea. But for those who are into that stuff, they do have some extras on there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did you enjoy the game? Are you gonna be picking it up? Like I said, $40 a little bit too much. 30 I think is a much better sweet spot. I would not consider this to be a value game. I don't think this is. I think $20 right out the gate would have been too cheap for the quality of the game. I think 30 is just the right middle ground for it. So yeah, yeah. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. Again, thank you guys so very much for watching this thing. I really, really appreciate people watching these videos. Yeah, give me feedback. Let me know ways I can improve, because I definitely want to keep doing these things. But until next time, I tip my hat to you as only a Manderville man can. Thank you guys very much.